again to get this to work. Fingers crossed. Always seems like we have like some sort of weird technical issue with LinkedIn Live, but we'll see if it's going to work.
Yeah, my frames always like suck. I'm gonna have to fix my internet somehow.
Okay, we are back up.
Dope.
Or are we? Says
I'm
we're streaming.
checking your post.
But then it says it's
Your
not.
posts does say we are live, I believe. Cool. I opened it up. I can hear you. You can hear me, I think.
Okay. So trying this once again. Cool. What is going on, everyone? Apologies for that. We were dealing with some really fun technical difficulties, as things typically tend to occur with LinkedIn Live. But of course, it's the beta, and I am grateful that we do have LinkedIn Live, so that's always nice. For those that don't know me, my name is Chad Oda, and my co-host is Tyler Odenthal. And today we are going to have, let's see, which number is it today? We must be like on our seventh or eighth.
I could actually
LinkedIn.
check real quick. I believe it's week 8. It is week 8.
It is the week 8 chat mode fireside chat. So we will be talking about all things conversational AI, voice, some really interesting updates from Microsoft yesterday from Microsoft Build around their conversational AI ecosystem. And if you guys have been following along with the stream, you certainly know we are pretty avid fans and big proponents about the ecosystem. So we will be going over some of the updates line by line. And then we'll just be, talking about, general industry trends that we're sort of seeing. And if you guys have topics you want to talk about, definitely make sure to put those in the comments below. And also, Tyler, I don't know if we have any surprise demos today, perhaps, but we will sort of take a look towards the end of the stream here. So on that note, appreciate you guys jumping in, checking out the stream. Make sure to drop a comment below to let us know who you are, where you're from, and maybe you have an interesting insight or a topic you want us to discuss today. Otherwise, we will sort of jump right into it. So I know yesterday, Tyler and I were sort of watching the Microsoft Build stream, and literally the first words out of Satya's mouth around the Microsoft ecosystem was, what were they, Tyler? Because I know you're super stoked to sort of talk about them.
I mean, I believe it was like around robotic process automation and like bot framework in general, and then Power Automate. He talked about a majority of things, but I don't know if I hit the specific keyword you were looking for.
No, you definitely hit it. It's pretty much chatbots and RPA, which seems to be like super top of mind for Microsoft, which is fantastic because I know it's something that, you have been really getting in the weeds with as of late. And, actually for quite some time, you've been doing a lot of RPA and bot stuff. But why is this significant?
Yeah, it's definitely significant because Microsoft, for those of you who don't know, acquired a RPA technology company. I believe it was like almost a year ago. We were trying to like speculate on what they were specifically going to do with that. They designed a thing called UI flows, and why UI flows is going to be really important. And what they announced with UI flows yesterday was a thing called Win Automate. And why this is important is because there's a lot of legacy applications that a lot of these mid-market and enterprise companies use. And those legacy applications often don't have a API to access these types of file systems, or maybe it's a CRM management system or an HR management system. They do not usually have APIs to access them. So a lot of it is manual data entry or like file report grabbing. So UI Flows enables access to Win Automate, which has about 300 different features that they've classified as important RPA features. There's Vision AI applications in there. There's PDF Vision AI applications. There's OCR. There's text sentiment analysis in there. There's data scraping tools. There's all sorts of things that you can imagine inside of that toolkit. Most of these tools often were thought to be like black hacker type stuff, but now we're starting to use them specifically like scraping tool sets and like data entry and bot type tool sets. Were primarily called black hat and were used for malicious things, but now we're starting to see these applications as more acceptable, and we're using them for business applications. So it's kind of cool to see like this company that otherwise might have been classified as like black hat a couple years ago, now being acquired by Microsoft and being designed for this huge mid-market and enterprise use case, which is Win Automate. So if you guys don't know, haven't downloaded it yet, I highly recommend it. Download Win Automate, look into it. It's very going to be the future of conversational bots, I believe.
Yeah, no, it's a pretty incredible trend, looking at RPA. I mean, if you think about companies like UiPath, maybe have only been around for what, like 4 or 5 years. And during
Yeah,
that time, I mean, like they're, you know, a multi-billion dollar company at this point, which I think sort of speaks to the capabilities and capacities in which we can automate tool sets and automate workflows, right? I think, I mean, maybe talk a little bit about like what are the advantages of using RPA, for a second, because it's like I think a lot of people, might have this notion. It's like, well, like wouldn't we just integrate into an existing API? Why wouldn't we just do that? Why is RPA something that is why would people use it?
yeah, definitely. There's many reasons why someone might want to use RPA. Often or not, it's just the complexity of a API system might be either A, so complex that you just often want to avoid it, or B, the software that they're literally using doesn't have an API. Like this old archaic CRM tool, or maybe like Gravity Payments, which I personally have talked to before, they actually don't have a great API for pulling specific like product information or like anything that's not related to essentially transactions is not inside of the Gravity payment system. Essentially, like you can't via the API pull out product name. Like it's very exceptionally hard. And then inputting product names via the API is also exceptionally hard. Or probably doesn't exist. So why this is very, very useful is because you can now design a UI flow or an RPA task that can essentially open up a web browser insanely fast, do button clicks and mouse movements that are inhuman, like so fast that you can't even watch these bots interact with the human eye. Like sometimes you actually legitimately have to put in delays inside of the bot because it's going too fast for the web pages to even load, for the elements to even show up. So there's like, even for sending an email, you can essentially open that up, do the whole email process, do that real quick, or you can just tell UiFlow or Power Automate to go send your email for you. Um, Power Automate in itself is RPA. It's just it doesn't have the cool bells and up web server and showing you what it's doing. And essentially, when Automate can also run in the background, it's just a little bit more expensive. So essentially, you have like types of ways that run Win Automate. So now you know why you would run it, and then like at scale, like if you just want to like automate data entry for like one computer, like you should maybe run it in mid mode. So essentially, like instead of someone like manually doing that, just like tell the bot to do that data entry for you, and it'll open up those interfaces for you and do it at an insanely fast speed. So like you don't have to control the mouse and stuff. Or you can run it unattended, where you can have a gateway cluster, and like maybe you have a network of computers that are doing RPA tasks. That can also be triggered via. So like, yeah, there's many reasons why you would use it. You're muted.
I am muted. Thank you for that. Yeah, no, I think that's a really good overview of like why you'd use RPA. I think the interesting thing is like when we sort of look at sort of our toolbox of tools to modulate data, modify data, delete data, add data. I mean, I think conventionally speaking, you can essentially accomplish a majority of those things with APIs, right? But to your point, sometimes APIs don't exist, or maybe the API is just not robust enough to handle the things you want to do. Which I found in cases where we've consulted on projects that what we want the API to do is just not functionality that's been built into it already, right? So RPAs pretty much provide this like really relatively like intuitive workaround to access, modify, delete data, that exists in, applications or, in some sort of infrastructure. Now, I think the interesting thing from a toolbox perspective is, if we consider conversational AI as sort of like the end user, like intuitive means of getting a computer to do an action for us, right? So the way that we sort of think about it is that conversation activates automation, right? Now, under the hood, right, we could use APIs, we could use, RPA, right? So now RPA provides another layer to essentially help um, embed automation, right? Where conversation activates it, the automation capability will need to have, we need to access that data or modify it in some manner. So, I agree with you. I think, you know, RPA plus chatbots is really going to open the hood with not only being able to get things developed quickly, right? But I think also like just the flexibility of the types of automations we can enable with chatbots. I mean, like, where do you see this sort of going?
Yeah, definitely. And before I get into like where it's going, I'll say like for a one task operation, uh, like pulling data from one data source, definitely should go the API route if possible, because it'll be much faster than like um, spinning up a web server to pull it for you. So like that would be like the Excel document example. So if you could figure out how to uh, configure the Excel API with authentication to pull this one specific cell that you need or this one row, you can definitely do that via the API, and it would be much faster. But the issue becomes, and why you would start to use RPA, it becomes when you want to do multi-layered tasks. So like download, so like essentially go to this Excel document, um, essentially get that like URL, open it up, maybe get a file, go to OneDrive, drop that file that you just downloaded from an Excel document into OneDrive, then go to LinkedIn, maybe make a post, then maybe go to Twitter, make a post there. It's like, okay, when you get down this like task supply chain in RPA, it's often easy to do because you essentially have macro recorder type functionality, or they've already built that functionality in their toolkit where you can just like drag and drop it into the line. Um, or uh, whereas like that's the RPA path where essentially you can just like have the automation chain, or you go the API path, right? Where essentially now you have to build a logic tree to essentially do this 5 task step. So essentially now you have like the API call that essentially grabs that cell. And then you have to program an if statement that essentially is like additional around grabbing that cell to do a different API call. Like maybe that API call doesn't even exist. Maybe it's like opening up a website, like dropping like that file into OneDrive. It's like, okay, once when I figured it out, like I actually call OneDrive API and drop that in there. But then it's like a coding like nightmare to actually design something like that. Whereas if you do it in RPA, it's just like so straightforward. You might even just like drag, like use your mouse, just click record. That might just be good enough. I don't highly recommend doing that. I recommend getting like an RPA engineer to optimize something, and that's why when like things that I do in RPA, when they're like really optimized, they're like super quick. But you can easily use these RPA tools to do like very complex things just by recording the mouse, like 100%. So I would say if you have a one task driven thing, totally use webhooks and API because it's going to be much faster. If you want to do a multi-layered like architecture, like a flow where you need to like grab a file, put it here, do this thing, send it to these people, email those people, it's going to be a nightmare to do in like